Hi everybody, it's Adam from Tested. Now, a while back, you guys might remember, especially those of you Redditors, that I was making some dovetail joints in various states of poor to middling. Actually, I don't even know if I got quite to middling. And I was using a beautiful coping saw from New Concepts to make my dovetail cuts. And then I got an email a few weeks ago from Meek here from New Concepts telling me that I was using absolutely the wrong saw of theirs to make these cuts. Tell me why.
Okay, simple. The legs are too long.
Okay.
As they get longer, they flex more. We actually make that saw specifically for people who are doing deep inlay, like the Spanish guitars with all that inlay work way out in the middle.
Okay.
That's what that's for.
So I bought the totally wrong saw for what I wanted to do.
That's what you wanted.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that seems it's almost identical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same beast. It's just 5 inches shorter.
That is beautiful. And there's much less, oh wow, it's totally much stiffer.
Oh, no. Say hello to my little friend. That one's aluminum, this one's titanium.
Whoa, it's
a little heavier, actually.
Actually, it's barely heavier. So can you tell me about New Concepts? What started you guys making these gorgeous, like, truss saws?
Lee Marshall, who was the original inventor, made a jeweler's saw that was restrained vertically. It ran on a track. Mm-hmm. And a friend of ours, who's a jeweler on the East Coast, used it as her main jeweler's saw because it was so much stiffer than the traditional ones.
Right.
And she bugged Lee for about 3 years to get him to make one without the extra stuff. So he finally did, and she started passing them around, and they sold like hotcakes. Lee is 70, I think he just had a birthday, so he's 77 now.
Can I make an assumption that this is his second career?
Fourth or fifth.
Fourth or fifth.
Well, he's a perpetual inventor. He has never met a box he doesn't like to think his way out of. He doesn't like boxes.
Yeah.
He originally started off making hydraulic presses for jewelers. If you've seen those little H-frame presses in all the jewelry shops, the gold ones, those are the Bonnie Doon presses. He started off making those.
Wow.
And he got to be about 75 or 74 and decided that that was a little heavy. So he sold Bonnie Doon off to a friend of ours in Mexico. And he was just going to piddle around making these things and play, and that was just going to be retirement. Famous last words. So he started making the original New Concept saws, which look pretty much like this one. Suddenly, it was the better mousetrap thing. If you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door.
And people started just clamoring for them.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, it was just, it has been completely, everything both of us can do to keep up with it for 3 years now.
Well, I mean, I bought this because I found this site of a guy making dovetails, and his encomium about this. He just said there's no better saw that's ever been made. Now, there's something else I really love about this, and it's less subtle and it's not functional, but you guys have chosen a different anodization for the cam lever here than you have for the main body, and a different one for these finger nuts.
Well, there's a reason for it.
What?
There's actually two. That is actually the same colored dye. It's just that this is hard ano and that isn't.
Okay.
So this stuff is sapphire hard because it's bearing against that brass.
I see.
And we try to make the user controls obvious.
Really simple. And so this thing, how long did the design process on this take?
You don't want to know. I tied my head in knots over that thing for about 6 months.
And is this water cut or laser cut?
That's water cut.
The titanium's water cut and the aluminum is laser cut.
Correct. The titanium gets brittle. It reacts badly to oxygen in the atmosphere if you heat it up. Right. So you get this nasty slag that is almost as hard as a diamond. Really fun to clean up. So the original version of this, what the story behind these guys was, the original ones looked like this, but they were gray. And what they were cut from was scrap off the F-22 line. The Air Force had a big batch of this stuff, and they screwed up the heat treatment so they couldn't use it. So we got it for, I wouldn't say nothing, but a lot less than commercially available. So we got that, we used it. Yeah. Problem is, these guys don't nest particularly well on a sheet. Oh. They're tremendously inefficient in using the sheet. Okay, fine, we blow through all of our scrap titanium, and now we're buying it retail. We were buying semi-truckloads of this stuff, but we're still buying it.
Margin goes way down. Or
price
disappears?
Quadrupled.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, not only did the margin disappear, we were into the red by like twice. So we had to get a lot more efficient.
Right.
So the deal is that these legs are cut right next to each other, and it's all jammed in.
Oh, I see. Right. It's not one part all the way through. Ah.
So the first ones had just basically legs and then two 16th-inch panels, and we riveted it all together, and everything was cool.
Okay.
And so we made one, and it was incredibly strong in this direction.
Yeah.
But if you wobbled it, it was spaghetti, because it had no lateral strength at all.
Right.
And so we beat our brains out for an entire summer on various ways to make this thing stiff. And I was finally futzing around at home, and I've got a little tiny micro TIG that fires through a microscope. And I was fussing around with this thing, and it's like, there's got to be some way to deal with this. So I just took these guys and bent them, and zigzagged some struts in there, and went to bend it. And it's like, wait, no, this does not move at all.
That is awesome.
And from that, this was born.
I love it. I love that, this is badass. And then I look at this, and this is like, we left this behind years ago.
Oh no, wait, well the funny thing about them is that the original, I should have brought a normal jeweler saw, but this is just basically a piece of 1/4-inch square wire. And that design came out about 1820. And Lee was the first person to ever really sit down and think about how to make it better.
That is shocking that it took that long.
Well, they're good enough.
Right.
And I walked into Lee's office the first time I ever saw one of these, and I was like, oh, duh, why didn't I think of that? It's like, it's a truss. Why did I not think of this? And that's kind of been our thing ever since. I mean, I brought along a prototype of...
Well, I wanted to ask what you guys are working on.
Well, what we're working on is a very limited market tool. This is the prototype leg off of a thing called a chevalet. French marquetry types, that fancy inlay work. Mm-hmm. The French actually have this giant saw that is like a piece of furniture. It has a saddle and you sit on it. And the blade runs horizontally. It's on a track over here so that the tail end of it is supported, the blade's over here. And it moves horizontally and you're cutting, but it keeps the blade at right angles to the work. So that way, as you cut through a packet of laminates, you can get 3 or 4 or 5 or a dozen layers, and they all line up perfectly when you glue them back together again. But the real ones are a couple of $1,000. They weigh about 800 pounds, and they're furniture.
Are they motorized or they hand?
No, they're hand stroked. But they've got a 24-inch throat on them.
Right.
But they are just these massive things. So
800 pounds. That's
well, the cross beam on them is a 6x6.
Of steel?
No, just of oak.
Of oak. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, these things are. I mean, they're beautifully made pieces of fine woodworking tool.
Right.
But they ain't precisely portable.
Yeah.
So what we're working on is a much lighter version that is portable. But where this guy only has a triangulated spine, because this has 19-inch legs on it,
they need to be triangulated all the way around.
All the way around. And this is the first prototype. It blew up in production. But when the spine gets in there, it locks in, it puzzle pieces together like this does.
I can't wait to see that. That is gorgeous.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to see it either. Because the funny thing is, you look at it in a CAD program, which is where I did this, and it's like, okay, fine. Intellectually, I knew how heavy or how big it was.
Right.
First time I saw one in person, it's like, holy crap, this thing's a monster.
And you guys do all of this machining in-house?
Yeah. I programmed all of that stuff.
That is stunning. Well, fantastic. Brian, will you supply us with it? We'll put up a link up on the site, and if you guys would supply us some pictures, maybe of behind the scenes and making this stuff. Brian, thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. I'm Adam from Tested. We'll see you guys next week.